Some cars are designed to set your hair on fire. They scream and shout, demanding attention with wild styling and ludicrous performance. The Toyota Premio T260 is not one of those cars. It is, to put it mildly, the sort of car your sensible aunt would buy. Launched in 2007, it was the second generation of the Premio nameplate, taking over from the equally unexciting T240. Its job wasn't to thrill you on a racetrack or make you the envy of your neighbors. No, its mission was far more straightforward, to be a reliable, comfortable, and utterly dependable saloon for the Japanese domestic market. And at that, it was brilliant. Now, when Toyota decides to update a car, they don't exactly go wild. You won't find them suddenly sticking a massive wing on the back or fitting flame-spitting exhausts. The change from the old T240 to this new T260 was a classic example of gentle evolution. The designers clearly had a brief that said, "Make it look a bit newer, but for goodness sake, don't scare anyone." The result was a car with a more streamlined and slightly more elegant exterior. The lines were cleaner, the shape was a little more aerodynamic, and it looked less like a box on wheels than its predecessor. It was still resolutely a saloon, but a smarter one. The real improvements, however, were to be found once you opened the door and settled inside. The interior was where Toyota spent a good chunk of the development budget. They knew that the people buying this car would spend a lot of time in it, commuting in traffic or ferrying family around. So they made it a properly pleasant place to be. The materials used were a definite step up from the previous model, with softer plastics and nicer fabrics. The dashboard was laid out with impeccable logic, meaning you could find every button and switch without having to consult a user manual the size of a phone book. Comfort was clearly the #1 priority. The seats were designed for long journeys, offering plenty of support without being overly firm. There was more space for passengers in the back, and the cabin felt airy and open. Toyota also put a lot of effort into making the T260 quiet. They added more sound-deadening material, improved the seals around the doors and windows, and tweaked the suspension to soak up bumps with quiet efficiency. The result was a car that glided along, isolating you from the noise and harshness of the outside world. It was, in essence, a mobile sanctuary of calm. When it came to the oily bits, Toyota offered a range of engines that were predictably sensible. You had a choice of 3 petrol power plants, a basic 1.5-liter, a more versatile 1.8-liter, and a range-topping 2.0-liter. None of these engines were going to win you any drag races. They were designed for smooth power delivery, decent fuel economy, and the kind of reliability that means they will likely outlive their owners. The focus was on providing enough power for everyday driving situations, like merging onto a motorway or overtaking a lorry, without any unnecessary drama or fuss. It was engineering for the real world, not the Nürburgring. The engines were paired with gearboxes that continued the theme of smooth, effortless progress. While a manual transmission was available, most buyers opted for the automatic. And this is where Toyota's cleverness came in. They fitted the T260 with their Super Continuously Variable Transmission, or Super CVTi. Now, I'm not usually a fan of CVTs. They often make a car drone like a very sad vacuum cleaner. But Toyota's system was one of the better ones. It was designed to keep the engine in its most efficient rev range, which helped to improve fuel economy and reduce emissions. It made driving in stop-start city traffic an absolute breeze. The drive quality of the Premio T260 was exactly what you would expect from a car focused so heavily on comfort. The suspension was soft, maybe a little too soft if you enjoy spirited driving through twisty country lanes. It would lean in the corners if you pushed it too hard, a gentle reminder that this was not a sports car. Its natural habitat was the city street and the motorway, where it excelled. The steering was light and easy, perfect for navigating tight parking spaces, but it didn't offer much in the way of feedback. It was a car designed to be easy to drive, not engaging. This combination of a smooth engine, a clever gearbox, and a soft suspension created a driving experience that can only be described as serene. It was the automotive equivalent of a cup of chamomile tea. It wouldn't get your pulse racing, but it would get you from A to B, with the minimum of fuss and the maximum of comfort. For the vast majority of car buyers, who just want a tool to get them around, this was exactly what they were looking for. It was a car that understood its purpose perfectly and fulfilled it without any pretension. By 2010, the world had moved on a bit, and it was time for the Premio T260 to have a little refresh. In the car world, this is called a facelift, and it's basically the equivalent of getting new glasses and a haircut. Toyota gave the car a subtle but effective makeover to keep it looking fresh. The front end received most of the attention. There were new, sharper-looking headlights, a redesigned front grille that made it look a bit more modern, and a new front bumper. It wasn't a radical transformation, but it was enough to make the car look a bit more contemporary and less like something from the mid-2000s. The changes weren't just cosmetic. Around the back, the tail lamps were also updated with a new design, often incorporating clearer lenses and LED technology, which was becoming the norm around that time. These small tweaks to the front and rear were enough to keep the Premio competitive in the showroom. Inside, the changes were even more subtle. Toyota might have offered some new upholstery options or updated the trim pieces, but the fundamental layout, which was already very good, remained unchanged. Why mess with a formula that was already working so well? More importantly, the 2010 facelift brought with it some welcome updates in technology and safety. Car safety was advancing quickly, and Toyota made sure the Premio kept up. Features like vehicle stability control and traction control became more widely available across the range. These electronic systems are brilliant at helping a driver maintain control of the car in a skid, making it much safer in slippery conditions. It was a typical Toyota move, quietly adding genuinely useful technology that makes driving safer for ordinary people, without making a big song and dance about it. Under the bonnet, Toyota's engineers were busy making further improvements to fuel efficiency and emissions. The engines were tweaked and refined to squeeze a few more miles out of every gallon of petrol. The 1.8-liter engine, for example, was updated with the Valve-Matic system, which offered better performance and improved fuel economy. These continuous, incremental improvements are the hallmark of Toyota's engineering philosophy. They never stop trying to make their cars just a little bit better, a little bit more efficient, and a little bit cleaner. It's not glamorous work, but it's incredibly important. The Toyota Premio T260 built up a formidable reputation, and it was all based on three simple things: reliability, comfort, and low running costs. This is the holy trinity for most car buyers. They want a car that starts every single morning, doesn't break down, is comfortable to sit in, and doesn't cost a fortune to run. The Premio delivered on all these fronts, and then some. Its engines were known to be practically indestructible. The build quality was superb, and routine maintenance was simple and affordable. It was the car you bought with your head, not your heart. This reputation made it hugely popular, not just in its home market of Japan, but also in many export markets. Countries in Southeast Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean fell in love with the Premio. In these regions where road conditions can be challenging and access to specialist mechanics can be limited, the Premio's rugged dependability was a massive selling point. It became the go-to choice for families, taxi drivers, and business people who needed a car that they could count on, day in and day out. It was a true workhorse, albeit a very comfortable and quiet one. So if it was so good and so popular, why did Toyota stop making it? The simple answer is that the world changed. By 2016, when production of the T260 finally ended, the traditional saloon market was facing pressure from two different directions. On one side, buyers were flocking to SUVs and crossovers, won over by their high driving position and practical image. On the other side, Toyota itself was pushing its incredibly successful hybrid models, like the Prius and the hybrid versions of the Camry and Corolla. The humble petrol-powered saloon was getting squeezed out. The discontinuation of the Premio in 2016 marked the end of an era. It was replaced in spirit by newer, more technologically advanced sedans and hybrids in Toyota's lineup. The market had shifted, and Toyota, ever the pragmatic company, shifted with it. While the Premio T260 may never be celebrated in a motoring museum or featured on a bedroom poster, it deserves to be remembered. It was an exceptionally competent car that did its job with quiet, unassuming brilliance for nearly a decade. It was, in its own way, a perfect example of what Toyota does best.